Hi there. I hope you can listen me and you can see my screen. Let me write first. Good evening. Oh, I see I'm the first saying good evening. Now there are a lot of people, other people, they'll say good evening, hi, good afternoon. Are you ready? Should we start? Yes, yes. Let's wait for a couple of minutes because people like being late, so we'll have to wait for like a couple of minutes, but not too much. Okay, Mr. Ismail, do you have something to say? Yes, I'm a developer. I'm using C#, but also I've used Java, so it depends on the company. As of right now, I'm using C#, Microsoft C#.NET. You need a microscope. Okay, go and get one. I'll wait for you. Will it take long? So there's nothing there. That's why you cannot see my screen. If I start creating the new package there, package 5, and then if I create a class, I believe you'll be able to see for loop. What about now? Can you see Ismail Bey? You see, I also have made it large for you so that you can see. Okay, guys, one more minute and then we'll start. I think people are busy with the interviews, so. Yeah, but they're tired. They have been flying all week long, every day, right? Uh, so, what do you think? Should we do again collections? Like all of them, set, list, maybe also touch a little bit the queue? Or are you tired of collections? Yeah, I see. Some people are tired of collection. They collect too much. So I believe I was thinking of doing arrays next week because now we're doing loops. So let's do arrays next week, and then maybe in the following week, if we'll continue, then we can do collections again, because like if we cover arrays and then we can go through collections. Yeah, collection is important. And we did collection and maps together in 1 week, and I don't think it's enough, so probably we should go through collection again. I see. You learned exceptions, huh? Ismail Bey, you have tough questions and sometimes out of topic questions. So let's leave it for later probably. Okay, so if we're ready, let's start with the loops. Probably Lona will help you with the question. Okay, so let's say we want to type, we want to print out something. Let's say, of course, we need a main function, main method. So everybody today will go through loops. So for loop, while loop. We also have do while loop. People don't use it too much, but there is do while loop, and then break, continue, and then maybe a couple of nested loops, and also like a couple of exemptions. I just found some interview questions. So iterator is something else, okay? Iterator, we'll do iterator with collections. So let's say we want to print something. Let's say hi there. And then we want to print this one, let's say multiple times, right? So we want to try this one. Okay, so we want to do this. We want to print this one 2 times or 3 times. So of course we can do it this way. We can manually write the same commands, let's say, or same. So we can write this one multiple times, but of course it's not suggested. Why? Because this is called code repetition, so you shouldn't repeat the code. So that's one of the things. The second thing is that now I know that I want to print this one 3 times. What if I want to print this one 1,000 times? So should I just type this one? Should I type this one 1,000 times? Not, of course. And also another thing is that if we don't know how many times we'll print this one, so now I'm saying, okay, let's print this one 3 times, and then we can copy paste the code 3 times, even though it's not beautiful code, but we can do it. But if I'm also looking at the comments there. So, but if we don't know how many times we print this one, so we'll probably need a for loop or a while loop or a do while loop, right? So let's say now we want to print this one 3 times. So the easiest way to do this one is to put in a, let's say, for loop, okay? For int I. Of course, we need to initiate it. I equals to 0, and then I is smaller than 5, and then I plus plus. And then we can just print out just as many times as this. So since we said 3 times, so we're going to put this one as 3, and then just delete the others. Okay, so with this code, of course, we do the same thing. We just print this. Okay, we print this one 3 times, right? Okay, so can we do the same thing with the while loop? Of course we can do the same thing with a while loop. So how do we do it? So here we have 3 statements. We do the 3 statements in one line, right? So this is statement 1. So we have the initialization of counter, because we're going to use I as a counter from 0 to 2, and then this is the condition where we check if while I is smaller than 3. So whenever I is 3, so this loop is broken. So it's like using break, and then we iterate this one. We use this one to increase. So this is the statement where we increase. Okay. So the while loop is the same. So we say int. Of course, we don't want to use I. We want to use j, or also we can use I here equals 0. So why we can use I here? Because I in this for loop here, I is a local variable. Okay, so I can only be seen within the for loop. So now that we are outside the for loop, we can use I again. Okay, so the int I variable here, I integer, is only seen just inside the for loop. Okay, and then here we can say I is equal to 0, and then while I is less than 3. I'm just gonna copy this statement here. Okay, and then here, of course, after I print the statement, I'll have to increase I. I guess everybody knows what I++ means. It is the same as saying I is equal to I plus 1, right? So it's just increasing I. But if I was 0, it would be 1, and then from 1 to hi, everybody. So again, the same thing that I said last week. Please don't be too much late. Well, I prefer to start like at 7:05, so I don't want to wait like 10-15 minutes. Okay, so these two are the same. So what are doing here? So this is the initialization. So we start I is equal to 0, and then while I is less than 3 is the same as this one here, the condition, and then we print. So these are the statements which are inside the body of the for loop. So here it is the statement which is inside the while loop, and then we have the increment statement here. So it's the same here. Okay, and then if we just use while loop, of course, again the same, it just prints it 3 times. Or also we can say print I if we want to print I from 0 to 2 in this case. Okay, so a quick question. What if I use I++ here? Will it be the same? What do you think? Just a quick guess. What do you think? Of course, most of you know it, but just to make sure that you're listening and you're following. Is it the same putting I++ at the beginning and putting I++ at the bottom of this statement? Same. So Ismail, they say the same. Yes. So whatever happens here, so all of these statements will be executed, and then here when we're done, we come back here, and then now we check if because we started I was 0, and then we check, is I less than 3? Yes, I is less than 3. Okay, so continue. So we just add this one. Okay, so increase I by 1. Then now I is 1, and then just print it, and then go back here. We check now I is 1. Is it less than 3? Yes, again. So we continue doing this one. Okay. So let me change my tricky question. Okay. So this is for if I just want to print hi there, of course. What if I print I here? So if I print I here, let me just comment out this one. If I print I here, so it will be, of course, 0, 1, 2. Okay. And then here again, I want to change this while loop the same way to print the I statement here. Okay. So in this case, do you think that putting, as we asked earlier, putting I++ here and putting I++ after this statement, is it the same? What do you think now? So earlier we checked that if we put I++ before and after is the same. What about in this case? Not the same. Why? Because we first increment and then we print it. So it will be So now here I is, of course, it will be printed 3 times, but first we'll increment, so it will be 1 and then print it. It will be 2 and then print it, and then it will be 3 and then print it, right? So if we print, in this case, is 1, 2, 3. But if we put it at the bottom, so it is 0, 1, 2, right? Okay, and then there was this. I found this interview question. I don't know if it's really into interviews. So the question is, what are loops in Java? And then what are the 3 types of loops? Of course, loops, 3 types of loops are for loop. Let me just write here. So for loop, that we already mentioned here. While loop, and then do while loop, right? Do while loop. So what is the difference between while loop and do while loop? Of course, we can do everything with for. I mean, the same things that we do with a for loop, you can do it with a while loop. Everything that we do with a while loop, we can do it with a do while loop, and vice versa. Okay, so even though we use generally while loops in even if they look different, they are the same, so they do the same thing. Okay, so what is a do while loop? So do, I have not used this one in a while, so if I do any mistake, just okay. So again, here, let's say int integer j is equal to 0. Okay, and let me comment out this one. I want to do the same thing here. So integer I is equal to 0. Do print I, and then of course here again we have to increment while, and then here we say I is smaller than 3, right? So you see, I don't know how to use do while loop. Again the same thing. So whatever we do with a for loop, we can do it with a while loop, and we can do it with a do while loop, right? So that's the thing. So there are 3 types of loops in Java. We have the for loop. Generally, for loop is used when we want to do the repeated things, but we generally, when we know before, like let's say we know that we have to run this one 5 times. Okay, so we know that we want to run this one 3 times in this case, so we know. Okay, so we have a counter, and then we'll have to do it 3 times. Okay, so generally in this case we use for loop. Okay, so while loop, we use the while loop when we have to check for a condition. So let's say there is a flag that needs to be checked, and then I mean a boolean, and then it will change while you do something in the so let's do that case, right? When we, of course, we can do it with a for loop, but we prefer in that case to use the while loop, right? So let's say if we want to scan for integers and then print the integer, or let's say print the square of the integer until the guy enters 0. So whenever the person who is using the program will enter 0, then it will stop, right? So let's say square, right? Square. Okay. No, this one is happening. So so we need a scanner, because we'll ask do you think should I make you do this exercise? Okay, let me give you this exercise. Try to do it for 5 minutes, and then we'll do it together. Okay, so we'll use a scanner, and then we'll ask. So let me write here. So we're going to prompt the user to enter a number, and then we print the square, and then let's say print the square of the number, okay? Until 0 is entered, right? 0 is entered. So whenever they enter 0, then the program will say, okay, bye-bye. Okay, we don't need to enter, or let's say, oh, of course, we also print the square of 0. We can put a condition there anyways. So, and then we just finish the program, okay? So I'll give you like 5 minutes. Of course, I'll start doing this one. I mean, I'll just do the scanner part, and then we finish. Because I heard that you like homeworks and exercises and tasks so much. That's what they told me. That's why I'm giving you a task to do, okay? Yeah, square of the number. I mean, like if 3 is entered, 3 times 3 is 9. So that's the square. Okay. I was going to make a joke, but just let's leave it. Okay, whenever the first person says done, I'll continue, okay? So I'm waiting like 2 more minutes, and then if somebody is done, I'll continue. Okay, so nobody says done, but I guess you all did it. Everybody is done with the task. So that's why I'll continue, okay? So let's say you entered, and I mean, not you entered, the square of your number is, and then just write the square, okay? So of course, when a number is entered, we'll need an integer here. So to read it, int a equals, I guess, scanner next int. Okay, so we read the integer, and then the square of your number. Of course, this is an easy example. So a times a, right? Oops, something happened here. Okay. And then here we're done in this case. So if we just need to do it one time, that's how we do it, right? So it will ask enter number 0 to finish. Of course, this will just get one number. So if we enter 5, and then the square of your number is 25, right? So if we want to do it one time, we can do it this way. Can we do it with a for loop? So doing the class this way is very difficult because we cannot get your answers. You'll need to type to say yes or no, but we'll try. Okay, well, it's very, very difficult. So can we use a for loop in this case? Of course, we can do it with a for loop, but we'll have to make it like a little bit difficult, right? Because for loop is used when we know that this will be executed 5 times, 3 times, n times, right? But if we want it to be executed multiple times, then we use while loop or do while loop, right? And then here we'll say what is the difference between a while loop and the do while loop. So let's do it with a while loop first, okay? That everybody knows. Even I know what a while loop is, okay? So here we say while true, and then we can, I mean, of course, now we don't want to, so here to do it with a while loop without using break, of course, because we can also use break, but let's say we don't want to use break and we don't want to use if statement. So here we say while a is different from 0, and then we print the number, right? And then here we have to again, so if it's 0, it will break here, right? So here we say if it's 0, we do nothing. But if it's not 0, we'll have to print this one and get the number again, right? So here we do it this way. Yeah, different from 0, right? Yeah, of course, not while a is smaller than, but I was going to say while greater than 0 or different from 0, right? So if I want only positive numbers, and then whenever it's if it's like a 0 or negative number, I break it. If I want to break it only by using 0, so if I don't want to get, so if I accept negative numbers, then I say, okay, if it's negative, I will accept it, and then if it's different from 0, of course, that's the while statement. So if it's different from 0, break it. So while it's different, while it's different from 0, continue, and then when it's 0, this will break the loop, right? So here in this case, we got a number, okay, and then we check it. If it's different from 0, we print it, the square of it, and then we get another number, right? So we get another number, and then again do the same, right? So this is if we use a while loop. So let's say enter number 3 is 9. Enter number 5 is 25. Enter number -3, because now we accept also negative numbers. And then, oh, sorry. And then 9, and to continue until we enter 0. And then when we enter 0, we are done, right? So in this case, if we use a while loop, we'll have to do this one 2 times, right? So we first have to get the number, scan it, and then print the statement. I mean, print the square of the number, and then we get the number again here, okay? But if we use a do while loop, so we do it this way, right? Let's not do it with a while loop. Let's do it with a do while loop and see what is the difference. So we say do while a is different than 0. So again, the same thing. So here we say, okay, enter number, use 0 to finish. Okay, and then let's also do this one outside. And then here we say the square of your number is a times a, right? Of course, at the beginning we say it's 0. So let's see how it happens with a do while loop, right? So here again, let's run this one. Enter number, use 0 to finish. Of course, this one already calculated, multiplied a times a, right? So here, of course, I have to write this one. A equals scanner dot next int, right? Yeah. Okay, so here, let's run this. Enter number. So 5, the square is 25. Enter number, 9, and then it's 81, and then minus 5 is 25, and then 0. And then as you can see, everything is done by just using this one, like the scanner, just one time. Here you see using the while loop and do while loop, right? I guess everybody sees it. If you have any question, just let me know. But the difference is that in while loop, we have to first check and then do something. So since we have to check, so we have to get the number before we check, right? We have to do it before we check. But here in this case, so we can do whatever we want, and then after we're done, we do the check, right? So they do the same thing, but it depends on if we'll check at the beginning of the loop or at the end of the loop. Do you guys have any questions or any things? In this case, what is the difference between while loop and do while loop in this example? Okay, thank you. So I just need somebody to say yes or no. Okay. So actually, I could name this class as while versus do while, but you can, I mean, even if I name it square, you understand that what I'm talking about. Okay. So again, while we first check the condition, and then we do the statements there, and then we check at the beginning. But in do while, we do everything and then we check. So generally, we use do while loop when we want it to be executed at least once. If we want it to be executed at least once, so we just say, okay, let's do it first and then check, so that then we'll check if we need to do it other times or not. Okay. Okay. So for loop, while loop, do while loop. Okay. And then another thing here, let's say I want to print numbers from 1 to 30. Okay, let me comment out these others. So of course, these are the same. Break and continue works for both. For all of them. For loop, while loop, and do while loop. Okay. So in this case, let's say I want to count from 1 to 30. Okay. But if the number is let's say 7, I want to skip. That's one case, right? So here, of course, there's a way. So you say if I is different from 7, we can print it, right? And then if it's 7, so this is of course one way of doing it. But there are of course other ways. So we say, so in this case, of course, so this is inside the if statement, right? So we print this one only if it is different than 7, right? Or we can say if it's different than state, I mean, if it is 7, if I is equal to 7, then continue. So I'm formatting the code. So it means if I7 continues, so what it'll do, it will print every time from 0 to 6, and then when I7, it will continue. It will not do whatever it is after the continue. So it will go to the end of the for loop, and then it will continue. So the for loop will continue, but it will skip the statements from continue to the end. Okay, we can do it in other ways. We don't always need continue, but continue is an option because sometimes it's difficult to do it without a continue. So in this case, we just skip number 7, right? But the loop will continue. So it will print the other numbers. Okay, not 30, but 10. Okay, so it is from 0 to 9, but as you can see, I have skipped 7, right? But if I say break, so let me do the same here so that I don't lose it. If I use a break, okay, so the for loop will end, okay, so it will not continue. So if I is equal to 7, it will break, right? So of course it will print until 6, and then for 7 it will break, and then it will not continue, right? Okay, let me just comment out this part here. So it prints until 6, and then when it is 7, it says, okay, just break the for loop, okay? So the for loop will not continue. So that's the difference between continue and break. One of them just skips the statements and then continues the for loop, but the other one skips that statement and also doesn't continue the for loop anymore, okay? Okay, so another question that they might ask, I mean, I've seen in the internet. So one of them is, what is an infinite loop, right? How is infinite loop declared? So what is infinite loop? Have you heard about infinite loop? And then how can we do it with a for loop, and how we can do it with a while loop, right? So we can do an infinite loop. So let me just make a class here, and then infinite loop. Okay, so have anybody heard about infinite loop? Of course, everybody has heard, but just I want to see a couple of answers there. Just saying yes, we've seen it. No, so there are people who don't know what is infinite loop. That's better for me. So I have a reason why I should explain, because there's somebody who doesn't know infinite loop. Okay. So infinite loop is a loop that continues forever, right? So let's say the easiest infinite loop is like a while loop, right? So while true, and then let's say print infinite loop, right? Infinite loop. Okay, so this one will print this one forever until we break the program. Otherwise, this one will go forever. Okay. Okay. So this is that's how we can do it with a while, and then we also can do it with a for. We can declare, generally the easiest one is this one. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, so let me comment out this one. Okay, so we don't have any declaration, we don't have any condition, we don't have any increment. So, and then if we run this one again, it will run forever. Okay, so this is an infinite loop. Okay, let me stop this one. That's it. But even if we say if for int I equals to 0, and then run this one, not 1 equals to 0, but I equals to 0. Okay, for I equals to 0, so it will run once, so I will be initialized, and then it will continue forever. Even if I say I smaller than 5, so normally we expect this one to run 5 times, right? So I is 0, it will go on to 4. But if we don't increment it, then this one again will go forever. So sometimes we forget to check while I is, let's say, less than 5, or if we forget to increment, right? So this is all again a infinite loop. Okay, let me just do this one first. I'll leave it there. So this is a infinite loop. This is an infinite loop. This is an infinite loop. So if we forget to check the statement and say I plus plus, so we're incrementing it, but we're not putting the upper limit. Okay, so we're saying, okay, from I starting from 0, and then we increment it, but we're not checking. Okay, so what is the maximum? So this one is also an infinite loop. Okay, so can we break this one? Let me just change this one here. Can we break this one without the statement here? As you can see, so we have initialized it, we have the condition here, but we don't have the increment, right? But can we increment inside the loop? Of course. And then if we increment inside the loop, then this is not an infinite loop anymore, because it will be incremented inside. So now here if we run it here, so it will run 5 times, right? Why? Because we're not incrementing here, which is easiest to do, and that's where we do it generally, but also we can increment inside the loop, right? But if we don't increment it, it is an infinite loop. Again, the same for this for loop. Okay, so we don't have the condition here. So we have I starts from 0, I is increased every time in the loop. So for each loop, I is increased by 1. So the first one, I is 0, the loop finishes, and then it is increased by 1, and then the loop finishes, and then it is increased by 1, but we don't have a check statement, okay? So can we do the check statement? Of course, we can do the check statement here and say, if I greater than or equal to 5, break, right? Of course, we have to put parentheses here. So if it's, I mean, we can say if it's equal, but let's say in somehow it might sometimes skip it. So if it is equal or greater than 5, then break. Okay. So again, in this case, this is not an infinite loop anymore. Why? Because when I is equal to 5, then this loop will break, right? So it will run 5 times, and then it will break, right? Okay, so let me just delete this one and leave this one as an infinite loop. Okay, so these are many ways. All of these are infinite loops, right? Okay, and then I have a question here. Okay. So new class. Let me say question 1. Question 1, or loop question 1. Loop question 1. And then here, I don't know why it goes down here. Main. And then there is a question here, say do while, okay? Do while false. Okay, so we must have to, yeah. Okay, so let me go back to the previous one and then explain the and then explain this one, right? So she's asking. So the question is, why do we have two semicolon, right? Semicolon. Okay, so here in a for loop, so we have initialization and then semicolon and then the condition and then semicolon and then the I++, right? The incrementation. So we have three statements. That's why it is split with a semicolon. So if we don't use any of them, so normally it should be like this, right? So everybody, if you have any questions, if I just go fast and I think that everybody got it, just please ask me so that I don't skip it, right? And then it's not a problem if you don't know. Sometimes I don't know. Okay, so normally we have the initialization. Okay, so we initialize I is equal to 0, and then we have the condition. So that's the second part, and then the third part is incrementation of I. Okay, so there are three statements actually there, three statements which are split with semicolon. But if I don't want to use any of them, I can just remove this one, but I have to leave the semicolon there. Otherwise, for loop will say, okay, what is this one? Because for loop needs three statements, okay? If you don't want to put the statement, you can leave it like this. So you're saying, okay, I have three statements. This is the first statement. This is the second statement, which is nothing. And then this is the third statement. So I can remove any of them. So I can remove this statement here. So now, as you can see, I just have initialization. I don't have the condition, I don't have the incrementation, right? So, but I have to leave because for loop needs to have two semicolons, okay? I hope this is clear for everybody. Okay, and then here, let me just remove this one. So that's why an empty for loop needs to have, and then everybody can thank Milena for asking, right? Okay, so this is the question, right? We have a do while loop here, and then inside a do while loop, we have another do while loop. Okay, so this is also called nested loops, right? So for loops can be nested, while loops can be nested, a for loop and a while loop can be nested, and then, so what do you expect here to be printed? Okay, does anybody have any answer? Will this run one time, many times, infinite times, and then what will be printed there? But please don't type the code, okay? Just try to guess it by not typing the code. Of course, if you type the code, you can see the result, but I don't want you to type the code. Okay. Any other answers? Do you have any suggestions, guys? Or you're trying to type the code? Ken, I don't know what is L++. So here in this case, it will just print one or two or both of them or none of them or print them multiple times. Okay, so let's go step by step, right? So let me also leave some space here. So the first while loop, Siri thought I called her. Okay, so it's when base suggesting that we print one is printed once and then two is printed multiple times. So let's go step by step, okay? So here do since there is no condition there, so this one will be printed, right? And then after this one is printed, and then the second loop starts, so also this one is printed, okay? So while we're saying here while false, it means that the condition will break here because it is false. So this while loop will break here, and then here again while false, so this loop also will break, okay? So it will print only 1 and 2 once, okay? So of course I didn't say println, I said print, that's why it's 1, 2 there together, okay? But if I use println, then it will be into different lines. So let's check the difference between this one and a while loop, right? So while false, the first one, I guess it's enough. Okay, I'll only change this one here. Is it default false? So you see, even Java doesn't allow me to say while false. Why? Because it knows, it already knows. Okay, let me just comment out this one here. It already knows that this one will not be printed, okay? So if I go here, unreachable code, you see, so while false means that you'll never enter. I mean, that's what I was guessing. So this one will be printed, and then this one will not be printed, but Java doesn't allow us to write this one. Why? Because JVM, like the editor, already knows, Eclipse already knows that this code is not reachable. So why are you typing it? While false, you cannot type while false because it will never be executed, right? But we can say boolean or bool a equals false. Okay, not boolean. Boolean a, and then while boolean a, right? Can we try this one? Yeah. See, now we tricked the editor, okay? So we say a is false, and then do print this one, and then while a, which is false, print this one, right? And then again, so there are already a couple of guesses there. Also we don't need this one in the while loop. We don't need the semicolon. Okay, so in this case, so this one will be printed, and then while a, which is false, and then print. What about if I say a equals to true? What will happen? Okay, so I'm changing the example. If I say, now I'm changing a little bit, what do you think? What will be printed here? I'm just making this stuff up now, right? I didn't think about this one earlier. I'm just thinking now. So you're saying it will be printed 1 and 2, right? Does anybody think different? Because I think it will not be printed 1 and 2. They'll be printed something else. Okay, anybody else thinks different than printing 1 and 2? So in this case, of course, it will be printed once. And then here a is false, so a now is true. While true, print 1. So this one will be printed forever, right? So if I print this one, it will be 1, and then many 2s, right? You see infinite 2s. Let me stop this one. So just 1 is printed 1 time, and then 2 is printed forever, right? Infinite. Yeah, this is a infinite loop. While true is an infinite loop, right? Like we said it here earlier. Okay, what about if I say here a equals to false? What about now? What do you think? Quick one, just answer. I'm changing the question on the fly. I'm faster than you see? Okay, 1 and 2, and then it will stop, right? Because now a became true. This one will execute. A becomes false. So in the second loop, this one will go out, right? Very good. What about if I put this one before the printing? Fast. You see, I changed this one. Any other guesses now? Should be quick. Ryan, you think that? You see, people, they think that it will be only, this one will be printed. Okay, let's go step by step, right? So there are a couple of you who said 1 and 2. So this one will be printed, and then A is true. Okay, so we go inside the while loop. So we are inside the while loop, and then here A becomes false, but still we are inside the while loop. So this one will be executed. But when we go back here, since now A turned false, so it will not be executed again. Okay, so just 1 and 2. Okay, very good. Is it clear for everybody, or does anybody has question on this last one? Nobody has questions? Okay, I'll continue. Okay. Okay, so what else? Let me find another. Okay, so we already explained it, this one, but it looks like this is another interview question. So what is the difference between continue and break statement? Okay, break and continue. What is the difference? So you might talk to yourself like I'm doing now. Okay, so break and continue are two keywords in loops. Okay, so here, I mean, this is also the, I mean, also I've printed the answer here. So when a break keyword is used in a loop, loop is broken instantly. So it will broken and then it will not continue. So let's say the loop was supposed to run 10 times. So if you break it at the 5th time, so 5 times was executed, and then it will not continue. So only 5 times. While when continue is used, the iteration is broken and the loop continues. Like that iteration, the 5th iteration, let's say we say if I is 5, so the 5th iteration, it will be skipped, but the loop will continue. Continue, go to next condition, but break it out. So in case for the loop, we don't say continue, go to next condition, but we say in the for loop or the while loop, continue brings us to the next iteration. Okay, so this is, let's say we're iterating first time, second time, third time, fourth time, and then if you say continue, it will go to the end, it will go to the next iteration, the 5th iteration. But break will go to the next iteration and also break the loop. So the iterating will not continue. But with the continue keyword, the iteration continues, right? Okay, so I have another. Okay, so I have next iteration. Very good. Now we're on the same page. Okay. So from a website, I found a couple of okay. So let me give you an example, and let me give a break for 5 minutes. Okay. So it says, let me write a new class here. You can do it yourself. So counting, let's say counting, right? Counting back. Okay. So we have a class here. I don't know why it goes down. Okay. What's happening here? Okay. Counting back. So we want to, I mean, it says write in a different method, but we can just write inside the main method. We don't need to write another method. Okay. So a loop that displays numbers in descending order, like 5 by 5, like from 100 to 5. So let's say the output the output should be 10, 95, 90, 85, 80, and then continue 10, 5, 0. Okay, so this should be the output. Okay, it can be in the same line divided by comma, or it can be in different line, doesn't matter, but this should be the output. Okay, so I'll give a 5 minutes break, okay, while you do the task, and then I'll be back. So there are people who are done, huh? Wow, very good. Okay. Sorry it took more than 5 minutes, but I thought you'd not be able to do it in 5 minutes. That's why it took longer. Just kidding. Okay. So we can do it with the for loop, right? So whenever, so we can do it this way. So for, this is a fast one, int. So since we know that it will go from 100 to 0, so we can start int at 100. So int I equals 100. And then, of course, now we need 2 semicolons. And then here we check while for, I mean, the loop will iterate until I is small, I is greater or equal to 0, right? And then it will stop when it will be 0. And then I equals to I minus 5, right? Okay. So we always have learned that we do I plus plus, I minus minus, right? But here it can be anything. It can be, or as she did it, I is equal to I minus 5. So that's the same thing, right? So I is equal to I minus 5, or I equals minus 5. I will be d5, right? So this is one way. And then here, just print it, right? Print, or so I want to, I just wanted to print, so. Yes, and then I can print I, right? I plus comma, if we want to split them with comma. And then here it is, so this is one way of doing it, right? So this question can be done in like 1,000 ways. Another way is we can start it from 0 to 100, okay? So for, of course, but we'll have to do tricks inside there. For int I is equal to 0, and then while I is smaller or weak, I mean, yeah, smaller or equal to 100, okay? And then I equals I plus 5, right? And then here, of course, again, we'll just print. But of course, we cannot print I there because it is from 0 to 100, but we can say 100 minus I, right? Will this one work? Let's try. Okay, let me just print mine here. Okay, so as you can see, it does the same thing, right? So we start from 0 to 100, but when we print, we say let's print 100 minus I. Okay, another way of doing this one is we can just start from 21. Of course, again, I mean, you have to do a little trick there. So we can start at 20, and from 20 to 0, and then I minus minus, okay? And then here we don't print I, but we print I times 5, right? I times 5. Sorry, 5. So we did this one already print? What happened? Start, oh, not, sorry, greater or equal to 0. Okay, so you have to be careful with the. So as you can see, the third way of doing this one. So you can do different ways. Can we do this one with a while loop? What do you think? Is there anybody who thinks that we can do this one with a while loop? Wow, there are people who think we can do it with a while loop. Of course, everything we do with a for loop, we can do it with a while loop, okay? So let's do, yes, we can do it with while true or this way, right? So this while loop is the same with the first loop, right? So you say int I equals 100, right? So this one will be similar to the for loop that we did up there. Let me use another variable because I here, you see here, like, okay, you said it's not related with the loops, but you see here, I here doesn't care because this I is just used inside the for loop, right? But this I here interferes with the I's that are declared inside the for loop. Why? Because if it is inside the for loop, but still this one here, we see the I that is declared up here, okay? So that's why it's given a, so let me use another, let me use J here, okay? So for while loops, I'll use J. And then while, since we want it to be similar to this one up here, so we say while, and then here we put the condition, okay? And then inside the while loop, we print, and then, sorry, not I, but J, of course, here, and then here again, J, okay? So, or you know what, let me just comment out this once and use I because I want this to be similar. So I can use an integer here after the 4, but if I use it before 4, it will interfere with this one. And then here I have to decrement by 5, right, after this one. So these two loops, this for loop here and this while loop here, are exactly the same, okay? Are exactly the same. So if I print, they are the same, okay? So there are other ways, of course, as I don't know now who did it, but there are other ways you can say while true and then do it, but just I wanted this one to be the same. So let me also write another while loop, which is the same with, let's say, this one here, right? So this while loop that I'll print now, that I will use now, sorry, not print, it will be the same with this for loop here. Okay, so again here, what is the first step? Int I is equal to 20. Okay, so this statement here, it's here, the same thing. And then while the condition, while I is greater than or equal to 0, okay? And then here is the printed statement and also this incrementation after this one, because we do the incrementation at the end, right? If we do the incrementation before this one, it will not be the same, right? So let me print this one. If these two are the same, as you can see, are the same. So if I do the incrementation before this one, of course, it is not the same, okay? So let me run this one. Of course, numbers will be shifted by 5. Okay, so as you can see, whatever, why? Okay, let me explain. What did great teachers say? I'm glad you asked, right? So first, int I is equal to 20, right? So we check, is I greater than 0? Yes. So okay, continue. And then if I decrement, sorry, if I decrement and then print, so first will be decremented, so now it's not 20 but it's 19. So and then when we print, it will be 19 times 5, which is 95, is not 100. And then in the second while loop, so again the loop will run 20 times, but here we'll print the number, the number will be 1 less, and then if we want multiply by 5, it will be 5 less, okay? That's it is supposed to be. So if we run it, and then you see here in this case, it is 100, 95, 90, up to 0. In this case, again, it will run 20 times, but it will start with 95 because it is 19 times 5 is 95, and then it will run 20 times, and then the last one will not be 0, but will be -5, okay? So that's why we should be careful, put it at the end. But I'm trying to say here that this for loop is the same with this while loop. They're exactly the same, okay? So whatever we do with the while loop, we can do with the for loop. Whatever we do with the for loop, we can do with the while loop, right? Okay, so this was one example. What else? Can we do it other ways? Of course, we can do it with a do while, and we can do it in other ways. So another way of doing this one, let's do it in last, example here. We can say while true. Okay, so we don't check the condition here. Of course, we have to initialize first. So int I, let's say, is equal to 100. Okay, so we start with 100. So while true, this will iterate on infinite, but we can break it, right? So here, so we can print this one. This one. So print the number and then decrement it by 5, right? And then decrement it by 5. So I minus equal 5. Okay, so we printed it, we decremented it. Now, if we leave it like this, of course, this will run forever because while true. But here we can say, we can put the condition here, if I is equal to 0 or smaller, let's say smaller or equal to 0, okay? If it is smaller or equal to 0, then just break, okay? And then, of course, we don't need parentheses if we have just one statement. Will this one do the same? Yes. So we don't need see, didn't do for 0. So if it is smaller than 0, sorry, smaller, not equal to 0, because otherwise it will skip it for 0. Okay. So as you can see, we do the same by using. Let me put this while loop up here after this one, because this is similar to this one, but it's just we don't have a condition here. We have condition while true. So is this example clear for everybody? Because if we know this one, then we can make other complicated examples as we wish. Does anybody have any questions, or is it clear for everybody? Okay, I'll answer your question, Ken, but what about the others? Do they have any questions? So while true means this is an infinite loop, like we said earlier, right? It is an infinite loop. So if we don't break it in a way, so this will go forever and forever. Okay. So if we want to break it, either we can say, the only way we can do it is by breaking it. Okay. So you have to break it, otherwise this loop will go forever. So no other questions? I guess if nobody typed there, I guess everything is correct. Okay. Okay, let me get another question here. Maybe you have done these examples, and I don't know if it's very easy for you, but just I found those on the internet, and that's why I want to do those and go through those. Yeah, you're saying something? I'm waiting for you to type. We haven't. Okay. So another example. Okay. Sorry. Another example. Write a method that uses a while loop. So this one asks you to use the while loop, but you also can use, you can do it with a for loop, but if they ask you use while, then you have to use while, okay? Whatever they say. This method would replace every vowel in the string with an X. Call your method from main method. You don't need to call from main method. So let me just create a new class here and then write what is asked, okay? So replace, let me call this one replace X. Okay. And then here in this, it wants a while loop. Okay, while loop, which replaces every vowel with an X. Replace sorry, vowel with X. Okay. So what are the vowels? Let me just write the vowels here. So the vowels are A, E, I, O, U, right? In different languages, we have different vowels, but in English, these are the vowels. Okay, so we want, let's say, so the example is, let's say Java is fun or boring. Okay, let me make it Java is boring. And then this will be replaced with GX, VX is not boring, but VX, R, X, and G, right? And not is, but X is. Okay. Do you want me to give you 5 minutes to try to do it, or do you want me to just do it? And of course, you can use, what can you use? You can use, I mean, because since we are dealing with while loops and for loops, I'm just saying that you can use string, like string, str, let's say, and then you can use str dot char at, right? Char at, you can use this function. So character at this index, okay, index, whatever. Okay, so we can use this function, okay? Let's say we have a string and then string char at, so you get the character. So you can use, you have to use a while loop to just change the vowels to X, okay? So do you want to try it, or do you want me to do it directly? What do you think? Okay. So I'll give you 3 minutes. I'll get some water. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Okay. Looks like I I asked you to use the while loop, not do it the other ways. Of course, doing something you can do it in multiple ways, but when they ask you to use for loop, then you have to use for loop. And but of course, if they don't declare it, then you can do it any way you want. Okay, so let's continue. So, I mean, if I was in class, I would know how much time to give. Since I'm online, I don't know. I just guess that time is over. Let's just do it. Okay. So we have a string. Java is boring, and then we have another string. Let's say changed string, right? Changed or new string. New string. And then this is, of course, empty at the beginning. Okay. And then, of course, it wants, we can do it with a for loop, but they want us to use a while loop, okay? So, so we can use a while true, and then it will be forever. It will check forever, okay? Or we can say, okay, int I is equal to 0, and then while, of course, this is one way of doing it. Okay, but there are a lot of ways, multiple, infinite ways. While I, let's say I is smaller than string dot character length, right? Length. Okay. So while is smaller than length, we'll check the character at that position. Okay, and then I will iterate after we're done. Okay, so let's say we can. We have to declare. We can declare. We can declare a character, or we can say if, and then we have string, the old string dot. I said we can use character at index. Okay, so character at this position, position I. So because at the beginning it's 0, right? So character at position I. We can do it multiple times, but since we have to take it just once, just let me declare another one. Okay. So this one will return a character, right? So say character. Let me name this one K whatever, or C since it's a character C. Okay, character at I. Okay, if C is equal to A, or C is equal to, we said, what are the vowels? A, E, and then let me copy this one. Okay, so I don't want to use string chart index multiple times, but I get the character first and then use this one, right? So we said A, E, I, O, U, right? So if the character is this one or this one or this one or this one, then so since for each letter we're checking, so we can say new string is new string plus X, right? So if it's one of these letters, we add X. Otherwise, we add the character, right? We say new string is equal to new string plus the character at that position. Okay, and then at the end, when we're done, we print the new string. Okay, let's hope I did it right. Let me just check. What happened? See, I did something wrong here. Okay, so let me see at the notes. Of course, this one goes forever because we didn't increment. Of course, we didn't increment I. Okay, so here at the end, when we're done, so we did for only for letter 0, right? For the letter at the first position at index 0, and then of course we have to do I plus plus, right? So if we do with a for loop, we don't forget to use I plus plus, but if we do with a while loop, we forget it. Okay. As you can see, Java is boring, is changed to this one. Okay. So should we go? Of course we should. Let's go again through the example. So first we have this string. It can be any string, and then the new string is empty. Okay. So we start at index 0. We start at index 0, and you say until this index is less than. But why don't we use less than or equal to? Because char at index, because length of this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sorry, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. This is 14 letters. So it is index is from 0 to 13. If I use index 14, of course, it will be out of bounds exception, right? I mean, so here as exception is string index out of bounds exception. So that's why we'll go from 0 to length minus 1. Length is 14, so we go from 0 to 13, right? So there are 14 letters, but we go from 0 to 13. So let me tell you a joke, a programmer joke, right? So let me say, I asked my son, can you count up to 5? And then he started counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I said, okay, he will not be a programmer because he didn't start from 0. Okay, that was a joke. You're supposed to laugh. So the index will go from 0 to the number of letters minus 1. So it is from 0 to 13. And then we get the character at index. Okay, thank you for laughing. So I have a couple of people who understand my jokes. So we have character at index 0. So it will be letter. Let me just get this one. So it will be letter J. Okay. So if J, of course, we also can check with the uppercase. I just did this one simple, so we can say we can check if C is A or uppercase A, if C is E or uppercase E, and then I and uppercase I, and it goes on. Okay. But I just checked with the lower letters. Well, let's suppose that the string is all lower letter. Okay, so if C, so character here, the first character is J. If J is equal to A or E or I or O or U, means it's a vowel. If it is a vowel, so I'll add an X. If it is not a vowel, I'll add the letter. So I have the letter J. Is it a vowel? No. So it go else, and then we just add J. And then we have to add 1. So that's what I forgot. Okay. So if we forgot to add 1, so I plus plus, it will forever go with the first letter, and then since I will never be equal to string length, so this will loop forever. Okay. So that's why we have to add 1 here. Okay, so now it is not the letter at index 0, but it's the second letter, or the letter at index 1. Okay, so the letter index 1 is A. So now we got the character at index 1, which is A, and then if A is equal to A or E or I, so it is equal to A. So now we'll not add the letter, but we'll add the X, and then it goes on like that. And then when we're done, so the last letter will be G, and then again, if G is equal to A or E or I or O or U, which is not, then it goes to else, and then the letter G is added. Sorry about this thing. Letter G is added. Now we add another, we increment I, it will be 14. So when it goes here, while I is less than 14. So now I is 14. Is it less than 14? No. Okay, so the while loop will break, and then after we're done, we just print the new string. Okay. I guess everyone is okay, and the example is clear, even though my joke was not clear for everyone. Okay. Okay, so another example that might be used in Java. Don't laugh, just smile. Just smile, Ismail. Okay, so another Java question is to use the reverse. Of course, we can do it in different ways, but in this case, they want us to do the reverse of a string. Let's do the same this one as this one. The reverse of this one with using a do while. Doesn't want a while loop, doesn't want a for loop. It wants a do while loop. Okay. You know what? Yeah, let's do it with a do while. Okay. So let's say reverse do while. Okay. Okay. Again, we'll use character. So we'll use a do while loop. So it will get the first letter and add it to a string, and then second letter. Okay, and then add it to a string. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and you please try to do it yourself. Okay. So just me right here. Use do while loop to generate, let's say, generate the reverse of a string. And then the string is Java is boring. Let me see if I can write the reverse of this one. You see how fast I did it? I guess this is the reverse of this one. Okay. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and then we'll do it together. Okay. Unless you don't want to do it. If you don't want to do it, just say me. We don't want to do it, and then we just do it together. We don't give you 5 minutes. Okay, nobody said anything, so I guess you want to do it. Okay, I'll be back. Okay. Very good. So I'll copy the code from the students, right? So let's say again we have a string like this, and then the new string. Yeah, so we're gonna start from the last letter. Okay, so one way of doing it is starting from the last letter until the first letter, right? So start from G. So we get G and copy, get N and copy, get I and copy, and then and go. So I mean up till J, right? So we can say int I is equal to string str dot length. But of course, we don't want to get the 14th letter because there is no 14th letter because we start from 0 to 13. So we get the 13th letter. Okay, so length minus 1. Okay, so we start from length minus 1 and then do while. Of course, we can do it with a while true and then break it inside, or we don't need to check with it for a condition there and then do while I is greater than or equal to 0. Okay. And then we get the string dot char at index I. So we get the letter at index, which is at the letter at index 13. Okay. And then we copy it in the new string, right? We can say reverse, we can say anything. I just said new string. So we copy the letter and then add it. Okay. So this one plus equals, it adds to the string. Okay. It's saying string plus itself. Like I'd like to do it this way so that everybody knows. Okay. So the letter, which is all the string which is already there plus the new character. Okay, so we get the first character and add, and then they get the second. And of course here we shouldn't forget and say I minus minus because we're going from the last character to the first character. Okay, until I is greater than or equal to 0. So let's say for I is 1, we get the first character 2, and then I is 0, and then again go and then get the character. Okay, so probably this is the correct one. Okay, of course, and then at the end we have to, after we're done, we have to print this one, okay? And then print new string. Okay, let's try this way. Okay, if we forget equal here, of course, it will not get the first letter, and as you see, say, Nirob is Ava. But if we put 0, it says Nirob is Avat. Okay? So again, we see it's easy. We get the last. So if it's 14 letters, we need the letter at index 14 minus 1. So the last letter is the letter at index 14, the length minus 1 at index 13. So we go from index 13 to 0, okay? And then we get the last letter, and then we put it in the string, and then we get the next letter, put it in the string, and so on, okay? Until the beginning. Okay, is it clear for everybody? Is there anybody who has any questions or? Okay, so you're commenting each other. I guess I'm okay. And then palindrome, we can do it later because we have done palindrome multiple times. Okay. Okay, so another question is, write a method that prints the multiplication table of a user provided number. Call your method from main method. Okay, so let's say you ask the user to enter a number, and then he'll enter 7. Okay, we're asking, of course, the numbers from 1 to 10, and then they enter 7. So you just say, okay, 7 times 1 is 7, 7 times 2 is 14, 7 times 3 is 21, and so on. Okay. So let me just create a new class and then say multiplication table. Of course, we're doing this one for just one number that the user is entering, or we can do this one for every number, so we can do it with the nested loop. So let's do this one first and then do the nested loop one. Okay. Okay. And then, of course, now I don't forget to have a main method, and then we'll use a scanner. Since I don't use scanner every day, I have to see how a scanner is used. So scanner, okay. Scanner equals new scanner, and then say system in, right? System dot in. And then just import the scanner. So we'll ask enter a number, and then of course you have to specify 1 through 10, okay? Because if we don't specify, they might enter 200. Of course we can do it with 200, but okay. And then, sorry. And then we read the number int I equals scanner dot next int, right? So we read the integer. And now we know that we have to multiply 10 times, right? Because we need the multiplication from 1 to 10. Okay, so that's easy. Of course, they asked us to use a for loop or any loop, so I use a for loop. So for int j is equal to 0, j is smaller than or equal to 10. I mean, let's start it from 1, not from 0, from 1 to 10. And then j plus plus. Okay, and here, this is very, very easy. Whatever the number is entered, so we say, so the number is I, right? So you say I times j, so j is the number here, and then equals I times j. Oh, wasn't this easy? So enter number 1 through 10. So let's enter 7, and then 7 times 1 is 7, 7 times 2 is 14. Okay, this is a way to teach my son the multiplication table. Okay, so and if you want, we can also use space or tab or whatever. Okay, so let me enter 8 this time, and then here is the multiplication table. Okay, and of course at the end we can close scanner, right? Scanner dot close, of course, because we don't want to leave it open. Okay, so now let me give another example. Let's do in this case, let's not enter a number from the user, but let's do the multiplication table from 1 times 1, I mean from 1 and multiply up to 10, and then bless me, thank you. Okay, and then 2, multiplication table for 2 and 3, and do all of them. Okay, so I'm going to give you, I mean, this was easy to when they enter a number, but let's say we don't enter a number. What I'm trying to say is in this other class, multiplication table, let me just comment out this one. In this case, I'll need, or let me, you know what, let me do it here. Okay, 1, this one, so multiplication table for 1, and then multiplication table for 2, and so on. Okay, so that's what I want. 1, 2, and then up to 10. Okay, in this case you'll have to use nested for loop. Okay, you don't need to get any number from the user. Yes, say it. Can we write a lottery program? We can write whatever we want. We can write whatever we want. Okay, so but in this case, since we're working with the for loops, so we want us to write the multiplication table for all numbers from 1 times 1 until 10 times 10. Okay, okay, so let me give you, what do you think? How many minutes do you want? 5 or 10? And by the way, I just made up this example now. I hadn't prepared that one, just I thought of it now. How many minutes do you want? 5 or 10? 5 or 10? Oh, nobody's listening. 10, 7. Okay, I'll give 6 to you. Aman, just 6 minutes, Aman. 7. Do you consider the 2 minutes that I was talking? So just 5 now or 7 from now? Okay, so you have 8 minutes, and then I'll check. Okay, and then we'll do it together. 9:04 until 9:12. Was easy, right? You didn't need 8 minutes. Very good. I'll just copy one of the. Try copy this one and see if it works. So max is 10, right? Oh, this was wrong. Okay. Okay, so it was easy. So let's explain the code step by step. Of course, there are other ways you can do it. You can do it in different ways. Okay, thank you for the lottery, but we wanted multiplication table. So let's say if we want up to 10 by 10, so there are two loops inside, one loop inside another loop, which is called a nested loop. Okay, so the outer loop starts from 1 to 10. Okay, and then the inner loop will start again from 1 to 10, and then in each of them we multiply the number. We multiply I by j, and then j goes 2, 3, 4, 5, and then again the same thing. Okay, so it was easy. Okay, just I have a question for you. For the another question is, can we do the multiplication table only in one for loop? What do you think? Do you think that we can do the multiplication table with just one for loop, or while, or whatever, the same thing, but let's say with a for loop? Or not this one. Let me ask a different question. Okay, so let me ask another one. So an example. Okay, never tried. We'll try, but not for the multiplication table, but we'll try with a different one. Okay, so let's say we have to we want to print, okay, print stars. Okay, stars. Okay, in this example we want to print, this is like the example that they always use. Okay, so we want these things to be printed. So okay, so 5 by 5. Okay, so if we want to print a 5 by 5, or let's say 4 by 5, not 5 by 5, because we want to see different numbers. 4 by 5, how we do it? It's easy, right? So 4 int I equals to 0, I less than 4. So we want 0, 1, 2, 3, right? I less than 4. And then I plus plus inside this loop for int j equals 0. Of course, start from 1 to 5, 0, j smaller than 5, and then j plus plus. And then here inside we print, not with println, but we print the star, and then after star is printed 5 times, then we just println, right? We just move to the next new line. Okay. So this is a 4 by 5. Of course, now the thing is broken here, so just forget about it. So this is a 4 by 5 stars, right? Okay, now I have a question here in this case. Can we print this one with just a for loop? What do you think, Mohammed? And the others? It's easy to do it, very easy to do it with 2 for loops, which are nested for loops, but can we do this one with just for loop? Let's say this is an interview question, right? I'm interviewing you now, I'm saying, okay, just do this one with 1 for loop. Can you do it? Anybody says yes or no? Anybody else thinks that you can do it with 1 for loop? What do you think, Vital, now after the Mega Bowl lottery? What do you think, Hilal and Aman and Ken? Can we do it with 1 for loop? And then if you say yes, how do you think you can do it? So the question is, I want to print this one with 1 for loop. Please don't. You are in interview now. You cannot access internet in your interview. If you want to do it in Google now, yes, you can do it. Maybe you can find it. I don't think so, but still you can find it. But in an interview, you will not be able to do it. Okay, so what are we doing here? So we are printing. No, say. Okay, so she's saying do this thing for int I equals to 0, I smaller than 5, than 4. Okay, so yes, we can do it with 1 for loop, right? You see, we did the same thing. Yeah, but okay, let's say you're allowed to just print 1 character in one statement, right? So okay, just do it by printing. Just print 1 star, okay? So I think we can do it, okay? So still, the thing is that here, if it's 4 by 5, we want to print 20 stars, right? So we can print 20 stars, but after the 5th star, we just print a line, and then after the next 5, let's say, we just print a new line, right? So we can print, if we print, okay, so 1 to 20, right? And then just print this one, okay? Of course, this will be in the same, not print line, but print, okay? And then this will be in the same line, right? But after the fifth one, if I print line, so here I check if I equals to 5, let's say, okay, sorry, 2 equals to 5, then after I printed 5 times, okay, let me start from 1 to 20, okay, from 1 to 20. If it's 5, then print line. So what happens here? So after the fifth one, we enter. So we can say, okay, after the 10th one of again, so here, another way of doing it, if I equals to 10, let's say, and then print another line, I mean new line, so we move into the next row. Okay, and then again for 15 and blah, blah, blah. But also there is another way we can say I mod 5 is equal to 0, right? Yes, Zoya is saying something. Yes, so it's mod, okay? So it means I mod 5 if I mod 5 equals to 0, then move to the new line, okay? Okay, so let's try. As you can see, we can do it, okay? So of course we have to put a check there. So if it's the fifth one, move to the new line. But so there are things that we can do it in different ways. So we can do, but as you can see, it's easier if we do it with the 2 for loops because we know what we're doing. In this one, you have to check and make sure. And in this case, it's very simple, but in some cases, it's very difficult to check in just 1 for loop, okay? But still, we can do it. Okay, so but also that was a smart one. Okay, I would not forget this one. Okay, so for in I, how was it? I equal to 0, I smaller than 4, and then we print 4 of them, right, in the same line. Print line, and then let's say this one is the smart solution. Smart solution. Very good. Yes, that's the easiest option. Okay. Okay. So there is this is the nested loop, right? Let's say, what about if I want to print, let me just create a no class, and then say tree, right? Tree star tree, whatever tree. In this case, what do we want to print? Let's say we want to print a tree of stars, right? So we want 1 star at the beginning, and then 2 stars in the second row, and then 3 stars here, and then 4 stars here, and then 5 here. And then you can go on. We can do also the 6th one or whatever. Or we can print the numbers, or we can print something else, okay? So we want 1 star at the first row, 2 at the second row, and then or we can do the reverse. So 6 at the beginning, and then 5, and then 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Can we print this one? Of course we can. So we will use a nested for loop. but in the first one we'll go from 1 to 5. In the second one we have to check and then go from 0, or let's say from 1 to the current number, right? So do you want me to give you 10 minutes to do it, or should I just do it? Do you want to try yourself? Probably you've seen this example because these are like famous examples, but again, these are the most used ones. So since there is no answer, should I think that you want to do it and give you 10 minutes? Oh, no. Yeah, Farah is talking for the first time. Just say it, Farah. Thank you, Farah, for saying something. Yes, 5 minutes, okay? Maybe you can do it in 3 minutes, but I'll give you 5, okay? So try to print this one, and then the second one will maybe modify this example or try to do something different, okay? Okay. So I'll give 5 minutes and then I'll be back. Oh, it was easy, huh? Okay. Of course. I don't need to see my email. Okay. So for int I, we can use other letters, M. Okay, I don't want to use always I. From 0, M is smaller than 6. Okay, or we can say from 1 to 6 or 0 to 5, doesn't matter. And then M plus plus. And then inside this one, for, let's use another letter, N equals from 0 to N is smaller than or equal to M, right? That's how you've done, right? So from and then this one we increment N plus plus. Very good. And then since this is one statement, we don't need the parentheses, but still we can use it, the brackets. So we print the star. We print one star each time. And then after we're done with this loop, of course, we have to go to the next line. Thank you for saying bless you. I know you did. Okay, so here so M starts from 0 to 6, or we can say from 1 to equal or less than or equal to 6, and then N from 1 to M, right? And then in the first one, in the first iteration of the first for loop, in the first iteration, so M will be 1, and then we're inside here, and N goes from 1 to 1. So it will be one time. So this will be run one time, and then we'll print the line. And then in the second iteration, outer iteration, very good. You see, you're trying to do cool things now. In the second iteration, M will be 2, but N will start again, will start from 1 to M, which is 2, okay? Let me copy this one and format the code. I like formatting the code. And I'll put this one back. And then this will be printed 2 times. And then print the, go to the next line, come back here. M is 3, so this will start from 1 to 3. So it will be printed 3 times, and then this will go on and on. Okay, so what if I change this one a little bit? Okay, if I change this one a little bit here. So I either can make the triangle that Lola did, okay, which was a beautiful one, or let me make this one. The first one is 1, the second one is 3, the third one is 5, and then 7, and then 9, and then 11. Okay, so again, we can do these things in multiple ways. Okay, so there's no just one way. Some people, they prefer to increment by 2. Some people prefer to increment by 1 and then use the multiplication. So we can do it in different ways. So again, here, of course, as we can see, there are 2 loops. The first loop, this will be 6 times because it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows, right? So let me copy this one because I'm lazy. I don't want to type it. Okay, from M from 1 to 6. Okay, so 6 times, and then J for int N is equal to 0. Okay, should I give you 2 minutes to try it, or should I just okay, I'm gonna give you just a couple of minutes, and then I'm gonna do my way. Of course, you can do it in different ways. I'll wait 2 minutes, okay? Okay, so let me repeat it again. So the first one was this one. So we printed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stars. I'm expecting you to write 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11 stars. Okay, so still are 6 rows, but it will increase by 2. Okay, no problem. I missed it. You can try to do it. So guys, I always suggest you to format the code. If you don't format the code, it's not very readable. But if you format it, it's for you easy to read, and for others it's easy to read. Okay, always Control, Command, Shift F is in Mac. I believe Control Shift F is in Windows. You see, Zoya did it in a different way. I was thinking in a different way. She did it in a different way. So there are different ways of doing it. There is no just one right solution. There are many different solutions. Different people think in different way. As long as it's done with 2 for loops, nested for loops, doesn't matter. Anybody else has done it? Did you try it, guys? Before you post the solution. I'll try one of the solutions here. Let me see if it prints what we expected. Interesting. Okay, so I'll do it in my way. Of course, there are different ways of doing it. This is my way. Okay. So I go from 1 to 6, and then for each line I go from 1 to 6 again. But when I print, I multiply by 2 and add 1, or let's say I start from 0 to from 1 from int n is equals to 1, n is smaller than m or equal to m, and then n plus plus. Okay, and then in this case, what will I print here? Print the star. Okay, so here I have to yeah, I have to keep a counter here, right? So I was thinking of doing with a counter. So Okay, so this is interesting. So I have to think a little bit. Let me try. Oh, see, I cannot do it. Okay, so there's another way of doing it. Okay, so there are different ways. So this is my way. Doesn't mean that this is the best or the. Okay, let me just copy this one. I want to format. I like to format the code. Okay, and then paste it here. Okay, so what I'm doing here. So m is from 1 to 6, and then n is from 1 to m times 2 minus 1. So m is 1. So the first row, 1 times 2 minus 1, which means 1 time it will be printed. And then the second row, when m is 2, m is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, minus 1 is 3, so 3 times will be printed. And then m is 3, 3 times 2 is 6, minus 1, 5 times. So every time it will be incremented by 2. Okay, so there are different ways. Somebody incremented it by 2, somebody did it in a different way. So there are different ways of doing it. I guess this one, my way, looks like the same as how Ryan did it, but he started from 0 to I minus time, from 0 to I times 2. I did it from 1 to m times 2 minus 1. So there are different ways of doing it. This is one of the ways. Okay. Okay. Okay, let me just do the last example, and I think we're done for today. So palindrome, I'm just leaving it because you have done, I believe you have done palindrome like 1,000 times. You have, I remember you had it as a homework. Okay. So prime number. What about prime number? Do you remember how to find if it's a prime number or not? Have you done that homework or exercise or something? Prime number. Just, oh, you remember? So I don't want to do it. Okay. Should we? Yeah, that's where I found it. It was an interview. Okay, let's not do prime number because you have done it. Just I have a couple of. Okay, how many? Okay. So prime number, you can do it on your own. That's your homework. Whoever has done it, okay. So it looks like it's an interview question. You can do it yourself after the class, okay. So I have a another like kind of quiz, okay. So this is the first. So 4. You have to be careful here. It's not something new. It's just you have to be careful with what you see. Yes, we can do a lot of examples, but time is over. So I think let's do these things now and then. Okay. Okay. The question is, how many times hello is printed? Hello is printed. Okay, so there are a couple of people that say 5. Does anybody think different? We have to be careful here. It's not that easy. Okay, guys, so I'll have like a couple of these and then we're done for today. So if you just don't look at other stuff, just look here and try to guess. And then why? Because that's what we did here. So that's what we're trying to, yeah, that's the trick, Ken. That's what we're trying to find, okay? So the I is incremented here in the for loop, but also I is incremented here, okay? So that's the trick. So probably it will go to 5 faster in less steps, okay? Okay, so I think it's 3, but let's see. 3 times, right? Because it starts at 0, and then the first time is not incremented here, so it is printed, and then I is 1, and then when we go here, I is 2, it's incremented 1 more, and then printed, and then 3, and then 4, and then printed, and then 5, and then it is not printed anymore, okay? So that's why it's printed 3 times. Okay, so I'll have a couple of these, and then try to guess, okay? So the second one is, what about this one? What do you think, Ken? What do you think, Ken? How many times it's printed? You're still saying 2, but I changed this one. No, I don't think it's 2 again. Anybody else? Any ideas? Yeah, so what is the statement here? It increases it by 1, and then again it decreases it by 1, okay? So probably the normal, so these two lines, they don't make sense. They do the same thing, so it is 0, it is 1, and then 0 back to the number, right? So it's like this. So it prints 5 times, okay? So in normal case, from 0 to 4, it's printed 5 times. So these two can be removed because they're increasing and decreasing. So it is printed 5 times, okay? So let me just comment out this first one, and then try this one, and then 5 times. Of course, if I ask this one, everybody will be very fast in saying the answer. If I do this one fast, what do you think, guys? I think you already guessed that I will ask this question. How many times will this one be printed? 3. Infinite, yeah, right, infinite. So because it starts at 0, so it is decreased and then increased. Decrease, so then I will stay 0 forever, right? So if we print, I will stay 0 forever. That's why this will be printed infinite times. Okay, so this was easy and fast. And okay, another one. Okay, so this is also a tricky one, Ken. Be careful. What do you think, guys? How many times? 0. Interesting. Does anybody else think different? 0, okay. Infinite. Is I is 0. Is I greater than 5 or not? Or does anybody think that it will be printed at least once? Or 0 times, or 1, or infinite? It will not go inside the loop. Why? Because it is checked like while, it is checked before going in the loop, right? So if we try to print, nothing is printed. Why? Because I is 0, okay? So since I is 0, is I greater than 5? No, because it's 0, so it will not go in the loop, okay? So it's like while false, right? While false, so it is not printing anything, okay? This is the same. I think I did the same thing. Okay, what about, okay, just let's leave it for today. Okay, so I think this is enough for today. So I have, if we continue, probably we'll continue next week. We'll go with arrays, and of course, if we do arrays, we'll definitely do loops. So that's why I wanted to do for loops and while loops before doing array, and then probably the next week we'll go with the collection. Okay, so I see the number is going down. It was like 80, 90 at the beginning, and now it's just 22 students, but still I'll spend the same energy only for 22 students. Okay, so it's better for you. If the others don't come, it's better for you. I'll spend more energy for you. Okay, bye, and good night for today. Bye.